everyone, this is Mindy for Pretty Pink Posh, and in today's video, I'm going to introduce you to one of the two new hot foil plates, how to use them, and I'm also going to show you how to use the new Layering XO Stencil. So first, we're going to take a look at the products that I will be using today. So this is the Large Love die. Now this is the word die and also the hot foil plate. I'll using both today. I'm also using the Scallop Frames. And then this is the layered XOXO stencil. Now a closer look at this layering XO stencil is it's a 3-piece layering stencil. Now this is really versatile because you take your X's, which is your base layer. Now you can either add the hearts in between or you can use the other layer and use the O's. I'm going to be using the X's and the hearts for my project today. So I'm going to start out with a piece of 80-pound white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I placed some repositionable tape behind there to secure it to my work surface. And then I'm taking the hearts and I'm going to add that layer first. And I'm securing that down with some Post-it tape. And now I'm going to bring in some red velvet ink from Gina K Designs. I'm going to pick up some of that ink with a blending brush. And starting at the top in some circular motions, I'm going to apply a light layer of ink. I like to start with a light layer and then I'll come back and add more ink to intensify that color. Now the reason I started with the hearts first is I'm going to add some glitter paste over the top of my X's and I want to give that time to dry and I don't want to have to worry about placing another layer over the top of it. So that is why I started with the hearts first. Once I'm satisfied with that color application, I'm going to remove that Post-it tape and also my stencil. And then I'm going to bring in the X's. And once again, I'm going to place that over my cardstock, kind of lining that up in between the hearts, securing that down with that Post-it tape. And now this time I'm bringing in some black licorice ink and applying that over the open areas of the stencil. After the X's are all completely filled in, I'm going to take a cloth and just kind of wipe off any of the excess ink that is on the top of the stencil. And then I'm going to bring in a glitter glaze. So I wanted a black glitter glaze. The closest thing I have, I think this is like a gunmetal type of glitter glaze from Brutus Monroe. I don't know if it's available anymore, but really any color glitter glaze would look really cool over this. This is just what I had in my stash. And one of the reasons that I have the black ink first is to really make sure that it's coming through as black. Because this glitter glaze kind of is a gunmetal color, so more of a light gray, I wanted to make sure that this showed through as a black. Now I just applied that over the open areas of the stencil, scraped off the excess and put that back in the jar. I'm going to wipe off my tool with a baby wipe, and then I carefully peeled up that stencil to reveal this gorgeous glittery background. Now I will wipe up my work surface with a baby wipe and then wash off my stencil right away so none of that glitter glaze is stuck to my stencil. I'm taking the Large Love hot foil plate, trimming out a piece of Specialty Glimmer cardstock. Now you can use the Specialty Glimmer from Spellbinders or you can use any type of smooth white cardstock. And I trimmed that to fit my foil plate. As far as my foil, this is Deco foil hot foil sheets. This is something they recently came out with that I was trying out. So I trimmed out a piece to fit my hot foil plate. I'm placing that down so the pretty side of my foil is facing up and then placing my hot foil plate over the top so it's the word plate down. So the actual impression of it is facing down. I trimmed off that little bit of an excess, and what I personally like to do is take my Spellbinders Best Ever Craft Tape and secure my hot foil plate down to my cardstock. This just ensures that it's not going to shift around or move when I'm transferring my platform into my die cutting machine. So I make sure that that tape is over the hot foil plate and also the cardstock. To do my hot foiling, I am using the Spellbinders Glimmer machine and I will also be using the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cut machine. So I have that warming up off on the side. Once I bring that in here to the camera, you can see that that top light or that red light is on. And then once it is nice and warmed up, that second light is going to turn green. Then I'm going to take my hot foil plate and I want the foil plate to touch the base of my glimmer system. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to flip it over. So once I do that, I will hit the third button, which is our timer button, and it's going to blink green. And when it's a solid green, that means the Glimmer system is ready. Now, there's a few things I want to talk about while all of this is heating up. So one thing I want to discuss is some troubleshooting if you are doing any hot foiling. So the first thing you want to make sure you have is a smooth cardstock. Spellbinders carries a specialty glimmer foil cardstock. There is Hammermill, which is pretty popular, but you want to make sure you have a smooth cardstock to get the best results. You can also use colored cardstocks, which tend to be a little bit more textured. And here are some tips whether you are having some trouble hot foiling or even if you're going to use something that is not a smooth surface. Some of these are also going to depend on your die cutting machine. So sometimes you may need to add a cardstock shim or two to make sure there's enough pressure. It just kind of depends on that die cut machine, how much it's worn out or if it's brand new. You may need to also change the direction of your foil plate on the Glimmer system. So right now, mine is actually in kind of a vertical position and kind of kitty corner, but depending on your foil plate, you could do it kitty corner, you could do it more horizontal. So it's something you need to experiment with, and everybody is going to have different results. Now, there are times you may need to also hot foil it twice or heat it up twice. Now, right there, you can see my light is a solid green. I'm going to heat this up twice. So what I'm doing is I'm flipping the switch in the back to turn the machine off and then back on again. I'm going to give it a second for that second light to turn green. And then once it does, I can hit the timer button to heat it up twice. So it just really depends on your foil plates, your Glimmer system, your cardstock, and also your die cut machine. And they're just things that you need to figure out once you get those settings dialed in. The hot foiling is going to go really quick. I know Crafter's Companion has a Glimmer system of sorts or a hot foiling machine and their own die cut machine, so you will need to refer to those instructions on your sandwich to hot foil there. And if you have a die cut machine other than the Spellbinders or the Gemini Junior or the Gemini, you can contact Spellbinders or check out their website to see your compatibility. Now that my light is green, I'm going to disengage this platform. And what I need to do is bring this over to my Platinum 6 die cut machine. This is the only platform you need. And I have a shim and a cover plate that I'm going to place over the top and then run this through. Now, sometimes you will need to go back and forth. I don't always do that. I just need to dial in the settings for these particular hot foil plates. So I do go back and forth a couple times. Now, once you remove that, you want to be careful because the plate is hot. So carefully peel that up, and then we can peel back our foil, and you're going to see we have this beautifully foiled word love. And we have all this gorgeous shimmer and shine to it that's going to look great on the front of our card. Now, I could have foiled this straight onto the front of a card, 4¼ by 5½ card front, but I knew I wanted to die cut this out. And what's really great is the large love word and shadow die works perfectly with this foil plate. So the shadow die in that set fits over this, and I'm going to line that up, hold that down with Post-it tape, and run that through my die cut machine to cut it out. And then I'm going to move on to working on the rest of my card. My background is dry, so I am going to trim this down. And what I'm doing is just taking 1/4 inch off of each edge. This is going to leave me a card front of 3¾ by 5 inches. This also helps clean up my edges from maybe any of the glitter glaze that was kind of maybe spilling off of the edges just a little bit. I took the smallest scallop frame and I die cut it about 3 times. Now the first layer, I'm going to add some liquid glue behind and attach it over a piece of vellum that is cut to a little bit smaller than the size of the scallop frame. Then I'm going to add some more liquid glue to the back of that, and I'm going to layer it up with the other 2 frames that I die cut. So I'm going to have this kind of popped up a little bit. I'm going to add foam tape eventually, but that just helps kind of add stability to my frame. I used the Love Shadow and die cut that out 2 more times from white cardstock, layered that together as well with some liquid glue, just to add more stability behind it and just a little bit of dimension. Now my stencil panel, I am adding some foam tape behind it. I'm going to use my craft pick to peel back the backing and add this to a card front, white card front that is 4¼ by 5½. I'm adding some thin foam strips behind my frame, and then I'm going to place this onto my panel, hold that down for a second to make sure it's really secure on there because of that glitter glaze has a little bit of texture to it. I really like this vellum frame because it allows me to still show off the background, but kind of diffuse it just a little bit. Then I added that love over the top, and I'm going to let that sit for a minute. I'm going to add a smaller sentiment here. So I have a piece of black cardstock prepped with an anti-static powder tool. I'm stamping down the Hugs and Kisses sentiment in some white pigment ink, and then I'm going to sprinkle on some white embossing powder. I'll tap off my excess, and once my heat tool is really nice and hot, I'm going to start from the back, heat it up for just a couple seconds, and then bring it to the front and heat that up until that embossing powder is melted. Now, what I like to do is take a Swiffer cloth and buff over that. But if the powder is still kind of there, I like to take an eraser and just kind of buff over that area just ever so lightly. And that helps really make that black pop. So off screen, I trimmed that down into a thin strip, and I'm going to add some liquid glue to that and add it right underneath the word love. And I really like how I kind of have that at an angle here. And that's going to finish up my card project for today. I hope this video was informative for you if you are looking into hot foiling or maybe have had troubles along the way. So I hope these tips help you and give you some amazing results. Thank you so much for stopping by today.